Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me today in the Focke-Wulf 190 D9 tutorial series. So here we are in DCS 2.5 in the lovely Cobbuleti airfield. Now, would you guys have known this was Cobbuleti airfield if I hadn't told you? I certainly wouldn't have recognized it. It looks a lot different, but it looks a lot better. Hats off to Eagle Dynamics. Now in this tutorial series is going to be similar to the P-51 Mustang's tutorial series, in that video 1 is going to be startup tutorial, video 2 is going to be taxi and takeoff, video 3 is going to be landing and shutdown tutorial, and video 4 will hopefully be combat weapons employment tutorial. So all the weapons that the FW190 has. So let's start the tutorial. So first of all, a little bit about the Focke-Wulf 190. This is the later model, the D model with the inline engine. The previous Focke-Wulfs had radial engines. They gave it the inline engine for superior high altitude performance. And that is because of Germany's later war requirements, that being the Allied bombers attacking Germany. So they needed something that did well at high altitudes. The previous Focke-Wulfs with the radial engines were fantastic, but they were better at low altitude rather than high altitude where the Allied bombers were. So that's a little bit of history for you. But comparing the Focke-Wulf D9 to the P-51 Mustang, I would say that the Focke-Wulf has advantages in that lots of things are automated. It's a lot easier for the pilot to start the engine and to fly it. But it is, like in DCS, it's definitely not a plane that I would recommend for a new beginner, for a novice pilot in DCS. It is extremely difficult to take off and land, and it is quite a handful to control in taxiing as well. Nonetheless, it is a very iconic warbird. It is something very historical. It is an aircraft that has lots of history, so it's fun to fly. But I gotta mention one more thing. Like, after you take off in the Focke-Wulf, the flying is absolutely beautiful. It is a wonderful aircraft to fly. So let's get into the tutorial. Enough of me talking. Okay. So the first thing that you want to do when you get into the cockpit is you want to turn on the oxygen. You want to open this tap, and you want to look at this blinker over here, and you want to make sure that it's blinking. That indicates that the oxygen is flowing. Next thing that you want to do is you want to check that these two sticks, these metal spikes on your wing are up. That indicates that the landing gear is up. And if you want to adjust your seating height, you could do that by holding right control and right shift, and changing the position of the seat with keypad 8 and keypad 2. Obviously keypad 8 to go up, keypad 2 to go down. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about these gauges. This gauge over here is your altimeter in kilometers. This is your airspeed indicator in kilometers per hour. This is the artificial horizon with a turn and slip indicator as well. This is your vertical velocity indicator, compass, supercharger pressure, and engine RPM, engine speed. Down here, you have the fuel and oil pressure gauge, coolant temperature gauge, oil temperature gauge, MW50 pressure gauge, and your fuel quantity gauge. Basically tells you how much fuel you have. Now the Focke-Wulf 190 has one fuel gauge for both tanks. It has two tanks, a forward and an aft. Now you can switch between the two with this switch right here. So Vorn in German, and I know I'm probably not pronouncing it right. Vorn means forward, hinten means aft. So you can switch that around like this. And it will tell you which the amount of fuel quantity you have in each tank, forward or aft. And then you want to come over here. The last thing before we start the startup procedure, you want to make sure that this handle is in the on position. So for the startup procedure, you want to remove the cover on these circuit breakers, and you want to push them all in, front to back. So let's do that now. And now you can see, you can hear the aircraft coming to life. We've turned on the battery. So next thing you can do is you can contact the air traffic control for permission to start up.
Cobble ready. In field. 1-1. Request startup. Enfield 1-1. Cobble ready. Cleared for startup.
Roger that. Thank you. And your radio channel selector is this one. Normally it's kept in the 2 position right here for ATC. I'll explain that later. So now that we have our battery on, all of our power on, next we're going to go here and we're going to turn on our fuel pumps. So these are the circuit breakers. C1 is just your navigational lights. E14 is your front fuel pump. It's labeled Vorn. E13 is the rear or aft pump, labeled Hinton. We turn that on. The E85, labeled Sonder, is your special or auxiliary fuel tank pump, which basically is referring to your drop tanks on the wing. If you have that, you turn that on. E96 is the MW50. I'll explain the MW50 later, but quickly, like in short, from what I understand, it is a methanol and water injection solution that is injected into the engine to make it go faster. So that's that. Over here, we have the magnetos, the ignition system. We'll click it onto M1 and M2. You might not be able to see this because of the sun. And then over here, we have the fuel selector valve. So we're going to go ahead and push that all the way up to ALF, which is open. And obviously this position here is the rear, like if you want the engine to take fuel from the rear tank, and this one is only the front tank, and ALF is both. And obviously ZOO is off. So that's that. Next, what we want to do is we want to take the throttle out of shutdown or cutoff to idle, and you can do that by holding right Alt on your keyboard and pressing home once. Pressing end again will put it back into the cutoff. So we'll keep it in idle, and then using the throttle on your HOTAS, you can move it to this position right here, labeled Anlassen in German, which stands for start. So as you might have seen, the startup procedure in Focke-Wulf is quite simple. It's a lot easier than the Mustang. So the last step that we have is to come over here to the starter switch, remove the cover. We're going to push down this starter switch for about 20 seconds. You're going to hear the flywheel spinning, and then when it's sufficiently spun up, you're going to pull it up. So let's do that now. Can you guys hear that? I'm not sure if that's coming through the video. But this sound is new to 2.5. This is basically the flywheel spinning up. So now it's sufficiently spun up. We're going to pull it up. No. Okay. Let's do it again. That's quite awkward. That shouldn't have happened because I held it down for 20 seconds. And there we go. Engine start. Let's close the canopy because it gets really loud and then I can't hear myself think. So in anticipation for engine start, I had my toe brakes held. That's what you should do to prevent the aircraft from moving forward. Now you can idle the engine at 1000 RPM. Around 1000 RPM. You can let it idle. Then for a warm-up, you want to gradually increase the engine RPM to about 1800 until your coolant temperature reaches between 60 to 70 degrees Celsius. Now, I'm not sure what you guys thought, but I think that this startup is a lot easier than the P-51 Mustangs. However, that being said, it also removes important steps from the startup that a novice pilot should learn. So in terms of like learning, it's probably not a good thing, but in terms of ease of use, this is definitely easier. And also, if you've seen it, like there's no propeller pitch controller. This is all done automatically. The engine does the propeller pitch when according to engine RPM. So all this is automatic. If you want to increase power, you just push on the throttle and the engine will increase in power. You don't have to worry about propeller pitch. One more thing. Over here, this indicator here indicates your flap position. So at the moment they're down or aus. We can set it to start. Now start in German means takeoff. And obviously ein is up. So you can see that number changing. So we have our flaps are up 0 degrees. If we were to take it into takeoff, you'll see it's about 15 degrees. So guys, that's pretty much it for this video for the startup for the Focke-Wulf 190 D-9. Thank you so much for watching. If the video helped you out, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. Next video is going to be the taxiing and takeoff. So until then, bye bye.